Okay, lastly, let's welcome our second company guest, represented today by Mr. Michele Bianchetti, Managing Site Director, Vietnam at Copan Medical Group. Mr. Bianchetti has an MBA degree from Bologna Business School. He moved to Shanghai in 2016, where he set up a manufacturing facility for Copan. Actually, this year, he just moved to Vietnam, Hanoi, to open a new facility to supply the whole Asia-Pacific region for Copan. Welcome, Mr. Bianchetti. Copan is a really true example as a foreign company that has recently decided to move from China to Vietnam. This is the topic that we've been talking about, the foreign companies leaving China and coming to Vietnam. So what brought Copan to this decision? Would you like to share with us the reason behind this? Thank you.
Of course, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for allowing me sometimes to explain our progresses here in Vietnam. And yes, I'm very looking forward to explain. And first of all, unlike big companies like Sanofi, we need a bit of introduction over here to explain exactly what we're doing.
"2020 is finally over, giving way to a new year to be approached with renewed strength and energy. During the last 9 months, global demand for viral collection and transport products has skyrocketed due to COVID-19. Mindful of our leading role in pre-analytics and consistent with our modest attitude, at Copan we have been facing the pandemic head-on, working behind the scenes to provide worldwide the best service humanly possible. Our efforts have tripled our COVID-related production capacity and brought our manufacturing sites closer to the key markets. 1 billion of each flock and classic swabs and 500 million of transport media manufactured per year are the milestones we will achieve in 2021. Increasing our staff, which now counts more than 1,600 members worldwide, proved to be the right strategy to cope with the early surge in the demand for swabs and transport media. Boosting our production chain across all our international sites, a process we started well before COVID-19, was the only solution to logistical challenges that emerged later in the pandemic. Swab and tube injection molding, flocking, media filling, and packaging, you name it. We intervene in every step of our COVID-19 related production, doubling the total space dedicated to manufacturing at Copan facilities globally. On Italian soil, we dedicated a new area in our headquarters for the local production of our patented flock swabs. We acquired an additional warehouse and a new technology workshop to store our products and keep our machines, designed and developed internally, running efficiently everywhere in the world. On top of that, another production site will be up and running in the first half of 2021, bringing the Italian manufacturing and storage area to a total of 45,000 square meters, the size of 7 soccer fields. Across the Atlantic to ramp up COVID-19 related kits production in the United States, thanks to our generous grant and strategic partnership, we expanded to a 3,500 square meter facility in Carlsbad, California, that started production in July, just a few months after its acquisition. To keep up, the employee count jumped from 42 to over 300. Our plant in Puerto Rico is another site where we have accelerated in record time a project that had been planned pre-COVID. There, we retooled an area as big as 2 soccer fields to produce COVID-related products and flock swabs, hiring almost 300 new employees. In line with our values, this international expansion at existing sites and new locations has been done keeping humans first. Switching all production processes to 24/7, we hired additional employees globally. Aware of our responsibility towards the world and conscious that our production workers' commitment and dedication were essential to accomplish our mission, we took measures to ensure their safety and welfare at the highest, from implementing smart working to COVID-19 insurance policies and added employee benefits. In addition to the company reorganization and expansion, Copan has deployed a successful global patent licensing program to grant other companies rights to make and distribute Copan's patented block swaps technology. Also, we design automation solutions to help laboratories handle COVID-19 samples. COVID-19 has stressed more than ever the crucial role of sample quality in pre-analytics in the patient's diagnostic journey. At Copan, we continue to serve the world with innovative and high-quality solutions to cope with current and future challenges. We'll always be there, as we have been for over 40 years.
If it's true for great multinational companies such as Sanofi, that they're looking eagerly for new destination to drive their business, it's even more true for Copan, which is Italian. And you can definitely tell it's Italian because from the video you can see that we measure everything in soccer fields. I just realized now how funny is that. It's an Italian-run company by a family. And our resources are, of course, limited compared to the one of multinationals, such as Sanofi, but we managed to expand ourselves pretty consistently since the beginning in 1960s in Italy. So where we have a headquarters with Copan Italia, then in the 90s was the first expansion branch in the USA, Copan Diagnostic, and in 2011, contrary to what my expectation can be, already in 2011 we moved to China, where we opened back then. It was just a trading facility, and then in 2016 exactly I came to Shanghai and I opened the Copan Medical Shanghai, which is a manufacturing machinery. It was followed by Japan and Australia, still trading company, and eventually from Puerto Rico. So if in USA and Puerto Rico on the west side of the world, we have a huge capacity in terms of manufacturing. In China, Japan, Australia, so the ASPAC region, we only have a tiny little minuscule 3,000 square meter company created by me in China, which would only be able to serve a Chinese market. While Japan, Australia relies strictly on Italy, headquartered from the goods. Puerto Rico nowadays, with the cost of transportation, is absolutely out of question. So of course, hence naturally the decision to switch forward and opening a manufacturing site in Asia outside of China. Again, after explaining why the transition from China to Vietnam, a few words on what the two main classes of products are. It's consumables. So we're talking about, yes, it's a medical device, but it's a kind of consumable too. And now I'm sure everybody of the people I'm talking to not only knows what it is, but had several due to COVID. Of course, would be silly not to mention that COVID helped us a lot in expanding our business. But on the other take, we faced several patent infringements from China about our patent, which is a block swap. So we had to start defending ourselves, and that accelerated, not just in view of the boost of sale, but in view of the future. We couldn't let such a big market like Asia Pacific just in the hand of Copan Medical Shanghai, which could not, of course, account for the full manufacturing capacity for the market. So with this swap, we just collect any sample from your nose, from your throat, from surfaces. And it's very important when it is to be flocked, because it ensures a quick sample uptake. It is quick, it's quicker because nobody of you had a swab made out of cotton fibers, which looks like a Q-tip. It will take even longer to take the extraction from the nose from you. So kudos to the flock. And it's very easy to elute. Elute means you put it into a tube, and the tube itself will preserve the specimen that has been collected. This is just pre-analytic. So it means that for every kind of disease, a person, or for any kind of bacteria or virus you are looking for, we have a specific elution method. So you have INAT, for example, which is a nucleic acid collection and preservation medium, which was very, very good, for example, for COVID, because you put the COVID virus you might have found in the patient and it's going to be inactivated. So even if you, by mistake, you bring it to the laboratory, you drop it on your feet, the virus is dead. But surviving the DNA of the virus, you can get to see into the specules of the machine. UTM, for example, is a universal transfer medium, which is good for a lot of viruses. And we also use that, of course, for COVID, but it doesn't kill them. and so on and so forth. So you can see some are for viruses, some are for collection for fecal swab, for example, SRKs for surfaces and equipment and microbial testing devices. So you see it's always accompanied by a swab or a couple or more, and the tube. And this is what we have been devoted for the last 50 years to do. So in 2016, when I just arrived in Copan, I was set up this facility where we do only the packaging of the product. So we would buy in bulk the swabs from Italy, arrive in China, package and assemble and sell to great companies such as Becton Dickinson, for example, which lives in China, but then it would resell abroad, or to Korea. And we faced, of course, like any company and any country, we faced a lot of difficulties. But China in particular, when our colleague from Sanofi was mentioning the difficulties that you might encounter in terms of regulatory when it comes to registering your product, pharmaceutical product, China is second to no one. So usually our products, which you saw, are very simple. It takes, usually you don't even have to register that. It took us 2 years to register. And in the meanwhile, you have to have a rising cost of employees and workers and of the facility itself. So it would also have been kind of a risk to expand in the meanwhile while you yet don't have a regulatory background to serve you very well. So imagining to have to go to China, where I was already settled, where my family settled, where I had my kid, and so for me it would have been very easy to stay in China, to move completely the shift, and also to make the headquarters trust in the shift from an already established presence just to be expanded to a totally new country where Vietnam, for example, nobody in my headquarters from the family of the ownerships has ever even been to Vietnam, but so many where the voice is not, of course, just from me, looking more and more favorable toward Vietnam, which we already heard from the beginning of this meeting, which I totally underline and confirm. They made us choose to go blindfolded to Vietnam, meaning that I was the first for Copan to come to Vietnam, purchase the land, and start the incorporation of a company. Not alone, we see nowadays that our businesses, especially because of the bottlenecks of the supply chain, but also sometimes for the kind of products you produce, you might face, wherever you are in the world, increasing political hawkishness against foreign companies, unless you're, of course, you're from your own company. But then when you are an expat leading a company abroad, you might be facing challenges which are very honestly getting more and more tough in China specifically, and overall deteriorated geopolitical context. And of course, the COVID boomed our businesses. It didn't really facilitate. Also, very recently in Shanghai, we also had our people sleeping inside in a little tents in our smaller company, just to try to make a living out of it, working in the company, because they also faced several brutal lockdowns. So in 2021, I moved from China. The company there is still there, is flourishing, but we decided to expand to Asia Pacific region, right? So we opted for Vietnam. The reasons why have already been said so many times, and yes, I heard also that it might have been difficult to do business, and I don't have, because I've been arriving here. I've arrived here since 3 months now. I'm still waiting for my temporary resident card, so I'm really new by. But the shift from a situation from China, although super well organized in terms of bureaucracy, but with a bunch load of bureaucracy, and the situation that I found here in Vietnam, also Hanoi, that is deemed to be the most conservative one of the two cities, of the two hubs, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, I found it an extremely pleasantly surprise working with a lot of different stakeholders, from the landlords of the plot of land we purchased, from the construction company, of the design company, also the office of D'Andrea and Partner, which is assisting us. And everybody has been contributing with a great deal of work and a great deal of professionality. Communication was very simple also, which is not to be underestimated. And on a very personal note, I took all my family from here in Vietnam, and yes, I can confirm for people who are listening and are not from Asia, hence living nearby Vietnam and probably already been visiting, it's a pleasant situation to be in terms of human connections, which is a little extra I can add on top of what everything has already been said of the macroeconomical data and the geopolitical situation, the geographical position, where from Hanoi you can be in China, you can be in Laos, or on the seaside in 2 hours of car. So what is the process going to be about? If in China we were just with 3,000 square meters, this will be 20,000 square meters, and the whole estimated investment is going to be roughly $50 million. Now we are in the time of incorporating the company. The next year we will do all the construction of it. But to give you, this is the type of commitment that a company that, although boosted by the COVID results, and last year having achieved 115 million euros of net profit, is still family owned. And to find resources to move abroad in a place where you have never been before, where the property, where the ownership has never been before, of course take courage, but I'm not want to underscore this. It means that Vietnam has really something to offer. It was very easy in a way to pick up Vietnam amongst the plethora of possibility, from Japan to Australia, from India to Korea. It was Vietnam, and we are still very much, of course, very much committed, and very much looking forward for our future expansion, because in this 20,000 square meter, unlike anywhere else in the world, literally, Copan will also be able not just to produce from scratch, so from a pellet of plastic to a final product, but we will also be able to sterilize internally all our products. So far, also in China, we rely to third-party sterilization companies, and we're finding this more and more difficult. And of course, Vietnam has still quite of a large gap to make and to fill when it comes to, yes, medical devices, assistances, and overall market. Hence, we couldn't find a reliable source for our sterilization needs. So we just decided to build it in ourselves, which adds a notch on difficulty. We were very keen on doing this, especially in Vietnam, given that it was very easy to get in touch with atomic presidents and directors, and some ministries, and local bureaus that seems to be very much looking forward to help us out. So this is the end of my quick presentation, and thank you everybody for listening.